Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today I'm going to be going over Death Knights #1. It's a comic book created by me. I just printed this out yesterday. Or rather put it all together, laid it out and stuff. It is the reprint from Random Access number 6 and number 9, and it has a fantastic cover by Paul Courtjohn. It was originally done in one of the Random Access's back covers, but I had already slotted the cover that month, so I couldn't have this as the cover, and I always wanted this as the cover for Death Knights #1. So a big shout out to Paul. He's a fantastic artist, and I love his art, and hopefully you do too. But along with going over the comic, I'm also going to, I have this listed on my website, alexanderturbin.com, which I'm going to put that in the description, but burn that into your brain, alexanderturbin.com. You could either buy the comic by itself, the Death Knights comic #1 by itself for $2.99, or there's a version where you can get the Death Knights comic and one of these fancy lances, which is made of a very sturdy hard resin. I first mold the rather sculpt the lance and then put it in a mold, and in that way I can reproduce them and create them as I go. But something more. I also created this sculpture of the Death Knight, and this is also resin crafted. I sculpted this. And I'm gonna have to move the camera, I think, a little bit. I sculpted this in the last week or so, month or so, and like I said, it's handcrafted, hand sculpted, and then put into a mold piece by piece. I have the arms and the legs and the head all in different pieces, and then I molded them and put them all together. It's got this this cool little base. The base is made out of a ceramic plaster. It's not made out of a resin, so it's a little bit more delicate. The actual statue is actually very sturdy. So this is the Death Knight. He's actually not in the cover. He's on the cover, obviously, but his costume actually isn't in #1. He's one of those characters where he doesn't appear in costume until the second or third issue. So, yep. I have this on my website as well, so that you can purchase either with the comic book or by itself. If you purchase it actually, I don't think you can purchase it without the comic. You can purchase this unpainted for $35, and it also comes with the lance. The lance has a cool little spot in the back here where you can put it in like this, right here, or you could glue it to his hand, or there's a whole multitude of different things you could do with it. It's got a nice sheen to it, nice glossy sheen that I put on the end and the final product. But like I said, you can get this unpainted because truthfully, I'm not the greatest figure painter. I kind of thought I was, but there's lots of nooks and crannies, and doing different kinds of washes and stuff. It's just kind of very difficult to do, as anyone knows that has done any kind of miniatures, figure painting, or anything like that. But you can, like I said, you can get this for $35, and it comes with the lance and the figure and the comic book for $35 at alexanderturbin.com, or you can pay $50 and have it fully painted, and you get all of the same stuff, the lance and the comic book and all of that stuff. I'm going to be showing that off for the next month or so whenever I do a review, so get used to it. It's here, the Death Knight figurine. My plan is to create a whole bunch of these figurines from different artists. My next I don't know if I should say what my next project is going to be, so actually I'm not going to. I'm going to wait. But it is an artist that a lot of people know, and I've had a lot of interactions with, and I really appreciate his work and love his work. And his characters are pretty iconic. So let's get on to Death Knights #1. And I'll give you some of my thoughts on it. This is actually the first thing, or the second thing. The first one was the Random Access number 26, where I changed it from Takua Publishing. I love my dog Takua very much, and that's why he became the icon for Takua Publishing. But I think it has to be a little bit more um, a little bit more professional, or a little bit more, I don't know. Anyway, I really kind of like the name Random Access, and I'm going with Random Access Publishing. So this is the second time that this logo has been shown on the book. Let me know what you think of this logo. I am thinking about changing it a little bit. I'm not sure. As all logos do, they go through an evolution throughout the years, so I'm sure that'll be changing and stuff. My original thought was I'm going to have the A in different places, with thereby indicating the randomness of Random Access. But we shall see. So anyway, Death Knights #1, created by me, was covered by Paul Courtjohn, and there's a little introduction. It's very, very short. One of the things creating comics is I don't know if you have to, but I like to have an introduction page or something like that. But it gets especially having a monthly book like Random Access, it gets very difficult to figure out exactly what you want to write. Or every month you have to come up with something new and clever, and something in a way to introduce the story. So I'm just kind of have been putting recaps of what I've been doing and stuff like that, and talking about the guest artists that have been appearing in the covers and stuff like that. But one of the big things that is in the Death Knights is this is actually a continuation from Queller #1 and 2. Queller is on my website, alexanderturbin.com, and that is also a reprint of Random Access #3 and 5, I believe. No, yeah, 3 and 5. So there's a lot of interaction, but you don't really need to know the history of what this is going into this comic book. He had an experience. He feels like he failed, and he's reporting to his boss. Basically, that's what it is. In Queller #1 and 2, I believe that's the when he leaves. Although it could be 3, it could be Queller 3, which 2 and 3 haven't been printed or published yet or anything yet. So other than in Random Access, like I said, you can find all of these stories in Random Access. It's very few things that I don't have in Random Access, except for a few things that I do with other artists and anthologies and stuff like that, which actually there is quite a bit now that I think about it. But the majority of my work is in Random Access and then reprinted by me in other formats. I feel like a lot of people like the different way that it's put together. Like, anthologies can only go so long. I like anthologies, but like I've said before, the big problem with an anthology is that you get a little snippet of a story when you need something a little bit more meatier to sink your teeth into. So, 10 pages is great a month, I think. It gets people tided over for something bigger. And this is the bigger story altogether. It's like how Ronin, Frank Miller's Ronin, was really panned the first time it came out in its 6-part, was it 4 or 6-part? Anyway, in the series, people didn't like it at all. They thought it sucked. But I read it as a trade paperback, and I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And that was one of the big things that I had heard, was that people just didn't like the way that it ran together in a series. Maybe there was not enough of a cliffhangers in each of them, or it just wasn't done for a serial project. It was done as a one big story, unlike Dark Knight Returns, where you can very specifically see each 4 chapters. So each chapter was a fantastic thing in of itself. But Ronin, you really had to read from beginning to end to really get the full impact of the story. So I can understand why people might want just a bigger chunk of the story that they can sink their teeth into. And eventually I'll probably put all of Death Knights or all of Queller or all of Cyrene into even bigger tomes, trade paperbacks and stuff like that, which that's really kind of my dream. Another thing about this that's different than the random access is that, yes, in the beginning I was doing random access in newsprint, but I just could not find the right newsprint to do it. I had to stop doing it because it was jamming up in my printer, and it wasn't working for me. I found this limited supply of newsprint that I can use now. And so all of the stuff that I'm collecting, either whether it's Queller #1 or all of the Sirens or all of the Forlorns or all of the Death Knights, they will be in newsprint. So all of the individual collected books are in newsprint. So let's get to the story. I'm gonna read the beginning. Death comes for us all. Death comes to everyone. It's a fact I've spent my life dealing with. That fact, not very well, mind you, but trying. That is what Death Knights is really about. Yeah, the costumes is cool, I think, or hope, and the stories are set in sci-fi settings. But like in all my stories, I try my hardest to explore a certain theme. So here it is, death. So, and then it says the start of the story begins after the events in Queller 1 through 3. So really, Death Knights is really truly my exploration to death. I'm not saying that I know anything or want or think I know anything about death, what happens after death. I haven't even really had very many experience with people dying close to me. I mean, I've had my grandparents die, my dog, which probably hit me even harder than my grandparents because I was so young and I didn't really know them all that much, but I loved that dog, Takua. And he was really fantastic, and it really crushed me when he died. And it's going to crush me when my two dogs die that I have now. So, not to mention my parents when they go. But it's a state of fact that everybody has to deal with, and some of us deal with it a little bit harder than others. I personally have a lot of times where I'm just thinking about eventually I'm going to die. Eventually my body is going to decay, and who knows where my spirit, if I have a spirit, do I have a spirit? Who knows? So this is just kind of my way of putting some of my thoughts possibly into a story that hopefully is entertaining, as well as maybe giving somebody something to think about as far as death goes, because it really is maybe one of the biggest, if not the biggest question in all of humanity. I mean, all religions are based on death and what happens to us after we die. And as an atheist, I'm a Buddhist, but I'm a Zen Buddhist, but also an atheist, which I don't know if that makes sense or not to you. But not believing if truly believing in an afterlife, there's something to that. Whether or not you think you agree with it or don't agree with it, it's something to explore. That's the thing about my stories, is that I'm want to explore them in my own way. So the Death Knight, who his name is Jabal Saad, bursts in, and he's had some sort of a failing, and he comes into the where the I don't know, the lair or the home of the leader of the Clean. The Clean is a religious sect that doesn't want anything that's not human or whatever they perceive as unnatural. No, I'm not going to ruin. I was going to ruin Queller 1 through 3 for you, but I'm not going to. But there's Queller is sent to take care of a creature or kill a creature that they feel is unnatural, and there's a whole resolution to that. But that doesn't really have anything to do with the Death Knight. He just wants some sort of, he wants to redeem himself because he feels like he failed. So he barges into this sex den of the leader of the religious cult or whatever, and he's obviously all about debauchery, and he's a hypocrite, which is a lot of how I feel religions are. But take that for whatever you will. He's just a cool character that eventually becomes a bigger villain in my universe. So the Death Knight, like I said, he wants a new some new assignment or something. So this cleric sends him to the Middle East, because this takes place back in the back in the time of knights and stuff, and the Middle Ages. So he sends him to the Crusades. He doesn't care about the Crusades as far as Muslims and Catholics and Christians and all this stuff. All he cares about is the creatures that he feel is unnatural. So he wants the Death Knight, who is not really a death. He's not a Death Knight yet. He's he's what they call a Bloodseeker, which is a very heretic section of the Quellers. Queller he is what his name is. He's a queller of the unnatural. Only he kills, vampires and werewolves and stuff like that are against humanity. Whereas the Bloodseekers, they just want to kill everything and destroy everything that's not humanity and not completely natural in the natural world as far as they're concerned. So it's whatever the clean says is unnatural. Like they could say this chicken is unnatural, so therefore kill it, which, then they would eat it. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's them deciding what is unnatural and what is natural. So they send the Bloodseeker Jabal Sad to the Crusades to fight with the religious and stuff like that. But it's really his secret mission is to find and kill the unnatural, which is this fawn creature or whatever. Which is, if you've read any of Random Access or my Quellers, this is a similar thing to a creature that was in that. So he's trying to kill this creature, this fawn, and then this Muslim warrior doesn't like it, and he just thinks he's some sort of religious fighter or something. So he attacks him. I don't know whether it's to save the fawn or to just attack a religious person, because he has a cross, as you see. He's got a cross cut in his forehead, which is a big thing for him. Because his faith is his anchor. It's his rock. He's kind of a little bit like Guardian. Is that his name? From the X-Men, who is, as long as he's feeling confident in what he's doing, then he has superhuman strength, Superman powers. That's kind of like Jabal Sad. If he's believing in what he's doing, then he is completely in power and in control. So this Muslim warrior attacks him, and to his surprise, Jabal Sad starts to lose to the warrior. And I don't know, looking back at some of my writing, I've had a little bit of a crisis in the last few months about my writing in comics, and some of it is that I just haven't written enough. I have this philosophy, and sometimes I'm thinking that it might not be correct, where if you're showing the action, showing the event, then you shouldn't write about the event. Like if so many comics, somebody says, and then the character fell down, but they're showing in the illustration that the character fell down. So why explain it in words? But sometimes I think having that wordplay or whatever, it really helps the comic as a whole. And I'm thinking actually of going back and maybe writing a little bit more stuff in my comics. And I don't know how you guys would feel. How would you guys feel if a comic that a creator went back and changed things in the comic? How would you feel about that? Would you be completely against it, or would you be for it if you think that it's a better comic book? Please let me know, because I really want to know what your guys' thoughts are, because I really, on some of these things where the writing is so sparse, I feel like that a little bit of dialogue or a little bit of exposition just might make the comic book that much better. And that's really my aim, is to make my comics books as best as I can, whether or not I have to go back and redo it or rewrite it or whatever. So one of the things that I was really trying to do was I wanted this to be in the blistering sun, and I feel like I could have just used a real light blue, but that would not give me the feeling that I'm really trying to get in this comic, because that is blistering hot in the desert during the Crusades. So the warrior, the Muslim warrior, just kicks Jabal Saad's ass, and Jabal falls from his horse, or he's next to his horse or whatever, and he's just smashing him, and he's completely demoralized, I guess. Which for me, that is kind of a parallel between the in the Crusades of what really happened, where the Muslims beat back the Christians and stuff like that. But he gets away. He climbs on his horse and he gets away, and he runs away from the Muslim, which is totally out of the character of Jabal Saad. And one of the biggest things about exploring death and exploring the character of Jabal Saad is I really wanted him to change. If there's one thing about death, is that it's a change. Whether it's a good or bad or it's a nothing, it's still a change. It's changing from your body, your mind, your heart, your soul into something else. And that's really what I wanted to get through with Jabal Saad and the Death Knights, is he's changing. I'm not saying it's for the better. I'm just saying it is for what it is. He's changing. He's not staying in one type of character. So he's running away. He's in the desert. He falls from his horse. He blacks out. And when he finally wakes up, he sees a thing coming towards him, some sort of dust cloud. As it gets closer, you see that it's just this crackling blue energy with lightning and all that stuff. And it almost envelops him. When it starts to appear, incorporalized is a character in some sort of leather hat and leather coat and stuff. This is the Death Knight. This is the original Death Knight, the first Death Knight, and kind of like the Santa Claus, or what's that story where the guy kills death? I can't remember. It's on a pale horse, I think. But the Death Knight and Jabal Saad have this little bit of dialogue where Jabal is like, "You're here to give me my reward for being good," and the Death Knight is, "No, wrong. The Death Knight is actually somebody who is either summoned through great pain and great tragedy of your own, or if you hit a tipping point in evil, the evil that you've done, the evil that you do, then he will show up and kind of take your soul, kill you, take your soul, and kind of change it." And like I said, the big thing about the Death Knights is changes, and which is really why I incorporated Mutandis. It is as anybody knows, the other comics that I'm kind of known for is Mutandis, that I did back in the 90s. I really wanted to start to incorporate that into my modern comics, which has been a little bit of a discussion with me and the original writer, Dave Worcester, about the Mutandis and the comics and what he wanted to do. But in my universe, Mutandis is a god. It's a god of change, kind of like the god of changes in Warhammer. Tzeentch. He's one of my favorite characters / gods or factions or whatever. And so I'm using that a little bit, where he's the god of change. Mutandis is the god of change. And so he's trying to attack Jabal Saad, take his soul, take his life, and change it to whatever it is. But Jabal Saad is such a potent character, such I don't know how you would say it, like a Nexus type character. He flips up his lance, and he throws it at the Death Knight, and he kills the Death Knight himself. But the Death Knight, in his death knell, says that you were wrong to do this. Your soul would have been purified. And Jabal Saad just says something about God is the only one that purifies him. And the Death Knight says, yes, a God. So he touches Jabal Saad, and the Mutandis, if you know anything from the Mutandis comic books, is a crystal. So the god is a giant, Mutandis the god is a giant crystal. And you'll see it later on in Death Knights 2 and 3. But he becomes overwhelmed. Jabal Saad becomes overwhelmed by this crystalline force, and he's being enveloped, or infected or whatever by this crystalline thing, and he becomes completely crystal with his lance lying there at his feet, because who knows what the change is that's about to happen. So that is Death Knights '1, and you can get it at alexanderturbin.com along with all of these different random accesses if you like. And 1900s horror, I've been promising this for quite a while, but this is going to be the cover for 1900s horror. It's H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, real life. They were pen pals, and they were friends, and it's kind of a comic book about them where they're trying to resurrect the spirit or the body of their favorite author, Edgar Allan Poe, and they just kind of go through there. And it has characters and stuff that they created in, like it was written in real life or something. So anyway, here's Death Knights '1. I'm obviously not going to give it a rating. I'm going to give this cover a rating of a 10. So Paul Corjon did a fantastic job on the cover for that, and I'm looking forward to working with Paul more often. And like I said, again, here is the figurine for the Death Knight, and there you go. Yep. So Death Knight '1. If you like this kind of content, or you're new to the channel, or you just happen upon this, I usually review 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, black and white indie stuff, or just weird stuff. But if you like that kind of content, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and all of that cool stuff. But more importantly, I like to hear your comments. I love to hear the comments from everybody, especially about my own work, which, maybe that's a little bit selfish, but I love to hear about comments from every comic that I review, but also my work. And, if it's good or if it's bad, if you hate my work, then I want to hear that too. If you hate the sculpture, if you love the sculpture, please let me know. I'd really like to hear it. And thanks for watching, and we will see you again Wednesday. And until then, keep on creating.